Welcome back. In today's session, I'm going to be taking you through the basics of Huen Ma or Huen Bo, which is a circle stance or a circle step-in action. Stay tuned. Okay, so the circle step is a semi-circular method of footwork used to change the angle and position to your opponent's forward stance. Hopefully I've said that in a way where you're going to get it. So I can say it a different way as well. The circle stance is generally used, or it's a means of moving your legs to relieve pressure on the centerline guard or to gain the advantage on either the inside or the outside gate of your opponent's guard. So you know how to form a basic stance, Yichi Kim Ying Ma. You now know how to form Huen Ma. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to circle the legs through powerfully so that you can gain the advantage and achieve a different angle and position in relation to your opponent. So what we need to do first is to understand and actually do this semicircular step in action. And it's very similar to what we did in the past video. We're going to work from this position. In the Huen Ma video, we actually learned to just circle the leg forward and face front. And that's a training exercise to get you to circle the leg forward like so. However, when you do the circle stance, you're actually starting to incorporate the 45-degree angle, which is very important if you want to just get into a strong position where you can strike an opponent. So what we do is we take that first drill from here, you turn on the heel and you turn the toes out. That opens your hips so that you can circle the leg through powerfully. Then what we want to do is we want to turn and circle, but we want to position ourselves off at roughly 45 degrees so that we can begin the semicircular step in action of the legs. So it would start like this, from this position, and again, take your hands back because you want to focus on the lower sections of the body. Look, I'm circling my legs forward, but I can go back to the basic stance, Yichi Kim Ying Ma, and the feet positions are correct. And that obviously comes about through years of practice. So you want to make sure that from this position, these are the basic principles of Yichi Kim Ying Ma. When you step and circle, you shouldn't be circling the foot so that it's too far forward, and it shouldn't be too narrow as well. So the first drill will look like this. This is without the guard. And again, I would do one set of 10 on the left, one set of 10 on the right, just making sure that you're circling the leg through powerfully, you're finishing in the heel to toe principle, your heels and toes are in line with each other as such, or the big toe is in line with the rear heel. Let me just get that correct. And that you're sitting down in the stance, the weight is generally to the back, and you're in a very good, strong seated position. So you will try that. And then, when you've got that, you incorporate the centerline guard, which is I step and I push the hands forward. I step and I push. And again, I'm learning to thrust the arms forward as I circle my leg forward. So you want to have your leg and your hand working together as if there's a piece of string connected from the wrist or the hand to the foot. Try that basic, and then the next exercise we're going to get you moving forward and backwards. Okay, so stepping forward. We want to actually, as a student, we want to learn to drive the stance forward to cover ground. And obviously the circle step, you'll notice that when you start doing this, you're going to be covering a lot more ground, greater than that you would if you was doing the Huen Ma step or the forward thrusting step. So that's something worth noticing as well, because if my partner does step back in Huen Ma and I want to gain the advantage, then it makes sense for me to circle. Because if you change your footwork in relation to what your opponent's doing, you might come up with something interesting, meaning there's an opportunity to actually win. So when you're in this position, in this forward stance position, what I want you to do is to move the stance forward. I want you to take a small Huen Ma step forward with the lead leg, just to create a little bit of movement that will enable you to circle the rear leg through powerfully. So if I'm in this position and my hands are up, I want you to push through the floor and take a small step forward with the lead leg, and just make sure that you're landing on the ball of the foot. Then what I want you to do is, from that position, you're to slide and bring the rear leg up to the lead leg, bringing the feet together momentarily. So it will look like this. And I'll just do that again. You're here. There you go. And then to circle the rear leg through powerfully, what I want you to do is place as much weight as possible on this lead leg and push and drive the rear leg through powerfully, so it will look like this. And let me just do that again. So you're here, I push, and then I circle the rear leg through powerfully. Notice that when I'm circling the leg forward, I'm changing the guard, the rear guard, through the center line, so that it's working at the same time with the rear leg stepping through, so that you're developing hand and leg coordination. And obviously that's quite important, because as we get older, we want to keep challenging and keep training our nervous system to be coordinated and to actually do things. So you're in this position to circle step forward. I push and I push, and I change the angle and the relation of my stance to another 45-degree angle. Try that forward step and we'll move on to stepping backwards. Okay, stepping backwards, it's actually quite different to stepping forward, because one of your main goals in stepping forward is to actually cover some ground. When you step back, however, you're generally doing that in some cases to relieve pressure on their guard. And what I mean by that is someone might be pressing really forward to draw some kind of reaction in your rear guard. So when you feel, if you step forward and they're strong and they're holding ground, you might want to step back and break away to recover the situation so that you can do something else. So when you step back, it's not as important to take a big step to actually increase the distance between you and your opponent. You actually just want to do a very quick circle step just to recover some ground, so that you can go back in there and start fighting from a different angle and a different position. So when you're stepping backwards, all I want you to make sure is, if that's my position facing forward to the front, I'm actually off in a 45-degree position. When I step back, I'm not actually going to take a backward step first to create movement, because there's no real reason for me to do that. What I'm actually going to do is just circle the leg through and back powerfully and throw my rear guard forward to threaten and control the center line. So from this position, when you're training it, you circle the leg, you bring this leg to the other leg, and then you thrust, which we can call Huen Ma, which is thrust in hand. You thrust the center line guard forward, because your weight is going backwards, so you want to counterbalance that by throwing the hand forward, so that acts as a brake to stop you from going too far back. At the same time, if someone is going to step forward and chase your hands, thrusting the hand forward is threatening, it's going to provoke a reaction of some kind, it's going to get the hand up, in which case you might want to LARP it. And a lot of the times when you're doing these footwork responses or applications, they're generally because you want to do something. You only move when you want to do something. You do not, as they say, bounce for the sake of bouncing. You do not step for the sake of stepping. There has to be a reason or an intention as to why you're doing something. Otherwise, you're just demonstrating art with no thought behind it. So there has to be an intention. So when you're practicing the circle step moving backwards, just make sure that you're not moving back too far. You're actually maintaining some kind of distance, and you're just stepping back enough so that you can recover the situation so that you can use a hand technique. And the point I want to make, just to correct myself, is that when you're in this position and you're circling back, the hand thrusts forward in what we call Busao and not Huen Ma. Okay, so from here, this is your rear guard. As you circle step back, you thrust the rear guard forward, and it's called Busao. So try those applications. The most important thing about these exercises is that you're developing the basic body mechanics, the basic actions on how to step forward and how to step back. And when you've got those actions, you've got those skills, it's then when you can start thinking about working with a partner and developing a feel for the distance judgment. And then we take it a stage further and we actually start learning to apply a park sao and a larp sao against your opponent's footwork, in addition to moving the stance forward with the circle step, moving the stance backward with the circle step, and generally starting to understand and develop a feel for that distance. So there you have it. The circle step is another variation of footwork. It's a semicircular method of footwork, and it's used to gain ground on an opponent, and you're going to achieve greater distance than that of Huen Ma. When you're stepping forward, it's generally to create an opening, and when you're stepping backwards, it's generally used to relieve pressure on the guard so that you can go back in and fight from another angle. Practice those drills, and in the next session I might take you through some basics on how you combine the stances or the footwork patterns so that you can move around a little bit more freely. Take care.